Hello and welcome to week 3 of Geek TV, Digital Spy's home for all things Doctor Who. And what a home it is, a 6-foot by 4-foot basement with rising damp, broken air conditioning, and a man whose idea of a date is in an evening with a Colin Baker box set and beans on toast. That man is Morgan Jeffery. Say hello, Morgan.
Hello.
Let's get down to business straight away and talk about tonight's episode of Doctor Who, the Mark Gatiss penned Cold War. It's fair to say, in my opinion, that it was the best episode of Doctor Who in 2013 so far. I'm putting it out there, I'm saying that, laying it on the line.
First of all, I want to refer back to your intro. There's nothing wrong with getting comfy on the sofa and watching Trial of a Time Lord on DVD. Yeah. But no, back to Cold War. I agree. I think it's kind of an instant classic. The best episode of this series so far. Mark Gatiss' best script since The Unquiet Dead from 2005, which was the first episode with Christopher Eccleston. It's also got a brilliant guest cast, one of the best guest casts Doctor Who's had it in a while. Liam Cunningham, Tobias Menzies, David Warner, who's sort of one of my all-time favourite actors, so I love seeing him in Doctor Who. And, it's got references to, Vienna by Ultravox and Hungry Like the Wolf. What more could you want?
Maybe some Spandau. Maybe that's all it was missing.
Bit of gold.
A bit of gold. It was big claims there, Morgan. Do you really think it was sort of classic Who episode that people would look back on?
I think so. It felt like it had that feel for me. I can definitely imagine myself kind of going back. It was kind of nicely standalone. You've got a classic monster. As I say, a great cast, great script. To me, it did feel like a kind of instant classic.
And do you think it's a shame, when you get a great cast like that on something like Doctor Who, that this was only a 45-minute episode?
Sure, but I agree with you that some of the supporting roles were maybe a little underwritten, but that's why I think it's all the more important to cast these kind of recognisable faces, because they bring so much to the roles, even if the script itself doesn't, lend itself to that much character development in 45 minutes, as you say.
And obviously the important thing this week was the return of the Ice Warriors, a classic Doctor Who villain.
Sure.
Everyone gets excited about a classic Doctor Who villain. Were you excited to see the Ice Warriors back?
I was, because the new series of Doctor Who has kind of brought back a lot of the icons from the classic series. The Ice Warriors were one of the big boxes left to be ticked. And what I liked was, this episode, it brings them back in classic form, kind of stomping around in their armour. But then Mark Gatiss' script also brings a new twist to them, because, as the Doctor says in the episode, they've never been seen to leave their kind of armour before. And this kind of idea of them kind of slithering and sliding about, it basically became Doctor Who does Alien. And I thought that was a really interesting twist to bring. I thought that worked really well indeed.
I can see that's pushing all your nerd buttons there.
It's two sci-fi things, together. I was loving it. It was brilliant, yeah.
Let's get geeky about this, Morgan. Let's talk about the Ice Warriors a little bit more. The first pictures came in, lots of people were complaining about them. Were you happy with how they looked?
I was fine with it. There was a lot of talk about clamps.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of rage about the absence of clamps.
You've got to get your clamps right.
You've got to get your clamps right. As the final episode turned out, he wasn't actually in his armour for long, so, the clamps were insignificant. I couldn't believe it. I thought the clamps would be vital to the episode's plot in some way. Strangely enough, the clamps were not a big issue in the final product. I don't think, having seen the final episode, that even the most angry fan will have, too many issues.
Do you ever get frustrated when Doctor Who fans get so bogged down in the detail, or are you someone who does take notes of what the Daleks look like this year?
It's a little bit of both. The kind of sensible side of my brain knows that there's nothing wrong with the redesign. They need to be changed. It's a modern series. Everything needs a revamp. That's good. And then the nerd part of my brain kind of recoils at change. Just hates change.
Just bring back the clamps.
Bring back the clamps. Yeah, there's a little sort of niggle at in the back of my brain saying bring back the clamps. But I can resist that. People need to resist, the urge for clamps.
While we're talking about Doctor Who villains, I might as well ask you, who would you like to bring back? What villain has not come back that you'd love to bring back? What monster? What creation?
Well, I mean, as I say, by now they have, ticked a lot of the big boxes. I think one of the remaining kind of classic monsters that they haven't brought back since 2005 is the Sea Devils. They were kind of the aquatic cousins of the Silurians who have come back previously. And some people kind of might remember them. There's a classic scene where they kind of emerge from the sea. A lot of people will remember that. So it's either the Sea Devils or the Bandrills.
What on earth are the Bandrills? the Bandrills sound bloody awesome.
The Bandrills, they were kind of like evil sock puppet aliens.
Perfect.
They were. I think the fan term is shite. The Bandrills. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. So
we know the Zygons are coming back for the 50th anniversary. Yep. We heard last week how excited you were about the return of the Zygons. let's put him to one side. Let's let Zygons be Zygons.
Very good, yeah.
Who would you like to join the Zygons? I presume there's going to, we've got 2 Doctors. We need at least 2 monsters, or two villains of some sort. Who would you like to see join them in the 50th?
So if it were me, if I was doing, I would just kind of think what looks good on a kind of movie poster. So I would want to, tick all the big boxes. So I think, it's difficult to make it work on a story level maybe, but if you can have the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Weeping Angels, all together, I think that's what you should do. You just make it as big and crazy and kind of bombastic as possible. But also, apart from the Bandrels, I would love to see Davros back, who's the creator of the Daleks. That's a character we've not seen for a couple of years. I think it'd be interesting to bring him back as well for the 50th.
From a neutral's perspective, I would have expected Davros or the Master to be involved, as they feel like the sort of biggest overall sort of nemesis for the Doctor.
And because it's a big event as well, this 50th, it's an opportunity to, as ever, to bring in new viewers. You kind of want to have your Doctor Who icons in there. So for me, it does make sense to kind of, within reason, pack in as many as possible. As you say, maybe we'll see a Master Davros team up. It'd be difficult for Moffat to write, but, if you can make it work, make it work.
And is that going to be ultimately the problem with the 50th? That someone, if not everyone, could be mildly disappointed?
People say you can't please all of the people all of the time, and you can hardly ever please Doctor Who fans any of the time. So people are always going to have their own little nitpicks as to which Doctors they want to feature, which monsters they want to feature. And Stephen Moffat can only do so much. But I think it is important. You've got to have Daleks, surely. You've got to have Cybermen. I think everyone would be disappointed if you didn't have, as I say, the icons, the big classic monsters. If nothing else, they're going to be screening this in cinemas, or so the rumours suggest. You want this to be, a big screen kind of blockbuster, and you want all the big names of Doctor Who in there, I think.
Sadly, that's all we've got time for this week on Geek TV. Morgan's Doctor Who pyjamas won't iron themselves, and I'm off to dig out my Duran Duran Best Of CD. But make sure you're back here next Saturday on Digital Spy for more Geek TV.